Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome. This is our first broadcast for equipping churches and sound, video, audio, as well as technology. I'm Brian Cochran. I'll be your host on this new broadcast, and today we're going to be talking about something I get asked a lot because I have a pro sound company and I do installations and as well as sell and service and train on pro sound and lighting. I've been in that arena now, in the sound arena and video arena now, probably for 35, almost 40 years. And I've been doing specifically working with churches for the last 20 years. And digital boards, I put in some video, it's set up, streaming, all kind of stuff. Enough of that. I just want to kind of give you a little heads up on who I am. And today, again, the things I've been asked a whole a lot of churches have analog boards and are trying to switch to digital boards, and I kind of want to give you the good and different on both and why you use whether. This is a hands-on training. This is more just a insight of some of the challenges I found with working with some of the churches I have that's gone to, that are analog and some that are digital. So I kind of go with one and the other, and then I'll tell you what my recommendations are based upon my years of experience. All right, first off, the analog and digital. Analog has been around a whole lot longer, and digital boards have become a lot cheaper, and I own both and love both. Have their places based upon how I'm using them. For smaller events where I don't have monitors, for instance, I'll use the analog board, and for other events where more convenient, which we'll talk about in a second, I use a digital board. Oh man, I have analog on both. So this is supposed to be digital. I do apologize for that. I was trying to hurry up and get this done because I'm a hard and I'm a mind to give up. So I do apologize. All right, we're going to start off with the analog board. One of the main differences is that with an analog board, say you're running monitors, and monitors are those speakers that are facing either the pulpit, that are facing either the singers or the pastor, or a combination of both. And so the good part about analog for me, that for churches that I'm going to try, is that if you have the outboard equipment, which I'm going to talk about in a second, for ease of use, the analog board hands down is the easiest of use once you pass the learning curve. But most churches, as I said earlier, have been working with an analog board so much longer. So one of the challenges I found in most churches with an analog board, if you hear on the left some of the effects rack, so this effects rack, what happens is in a lot of churches, especially smaller, they'll get a board and get a monitor and get some floor monitors or floor wedges, depending on what you want to call them. And the challenge is there's no equalization. So what happens is it's on the same mix as the main mix. So you'll have a feedback problem. And that feedback problem is caused by the cycling of sound from the microphone into itself, and it recycles over and over again and speeds up until you get the feedback based upon if it's instruments or whatever. But that's the major cause of feedback. So what happens is you will need what is called an equalizer. And if you see here on the left, if you see my mouse, this first one is a graphic equalizer. They're 31 band EQs. So based upon each channel, auxiliary channel. So what is an auxiliary channel? I'll say this real quick, and then I'm not trying to get too technical today. I just kind of want to give you the basic difference between the two. So if I start here and I go to the digital, I won't have to repeat myself again. So what happens is each auxiliary channel, so say for instance the pulpit is one auxiliary channel, your drummer is an auxiliary channel, your keyboard or organ or guitar or bass guitar or flute or whatever your instruments are, you can have separate channels. On a Mackie board, for instance, you'll have up to 6 channels on a basic analog board. So you can have 6 channels on your board. And so what happens is 6 auxiliaries, and so you'll put the EQ on each one. Then you find the frequency during sound check. You'll find the frequency based upon taking a microphone, turning up the sound, and then have somebody in the sound booth. If you got to run back and forth, try to have somebody in there so they can hold the microphone, and you go back and you look for the frequencies that cause the feedback, and all you do is lower it down to get to where the feedback is no longer there. So that's the first part. So that's why you use the EQ for your monitors. And then something else that you can have that, say for instance for your vocals or certain instruments need some either delay, reverb, or compression or something like that. And again, I'm not going to talk about all that, but if you look at this effects rack, it has those in it. So the blue one down below is a effects rack. I mean effects sends, so that you can either add compression, or you can add a limiter, or you can add a reverb or delay or whatever. So with an analog board, they're outside the board because it's an analog board. And so that's one of the drawbacks of an analog board. Good for church, bad for actually good for is good. But again, the bad part about one of the good things about it is that I'm going to get back to the board more so than the effects. The effects racks is just kind of want to say that just for the sake of part of the conversation, so you kind of halfway know what we're talking about. But the bigger thing is, and the biggest challenge that I've found working with analog board is that most cases, especially in smaller churches, you have what is called a volunteer. And a volunteer is somebody that's a willing worker, that's willing to get back there to help out the church for the sake of helping the church. So for ease of use, the training is easy. We have a manual on how to do sound and that kind of stuff, but I'm not doing the video for that reason. So for ease of use, that's the best way, because anybody can go back there after you've gone through the effects and pretty much have set up everything, unless they've changed the frequency or something. The basics of using an analog mixer is so much easier. So that's one of the reasons I recommend, if you're not going to someone who's going to be dedicated to really learn how to work, you get what you pay for. When it's free, a lot of times they're willing workers. They want to do it because they're passionate about God. They want to do, they want to help, but at the same time, they're willing to go on to, willing to pull manuals, willing to get in there and learn their craft as far as being a sound professional. Then they're going to find themselves in a bad position. So I would say with the analog board, would be the way to go. As far as if you don't have a paid staff, I've had several churches end up calling me because the settings get changed and so on and so forth after I put in a digital board. And the first thing that I'll tell them when they get ready to put a digital board in is, do you have someone that is going to be dedicated, or someone's that first person, either I don't have a problem coming in training, but the bigger part is, I'm trying to work myself out of a job, because that's what it's all about for me, to help build the kingdom first and foremost. And so what will happen is I'll say, okay, do you have someone that's going to be dedicated to using the equipment? Someone's going to learn it, so that way they're behind it. If not going to have, you'll have a deacon come up there and turn the sound on, or the mother's board come in there and they want to do prayer or something like that, then I would not recommend a digital board for that reason, because it's a lot more intense, a lot more going on that you need to know in order to make the board work. So let's go into a digital board real quick, and then I'm pretty much done because I already given you what I thought. Anyway, let's go forward. Next is a digital board. So the cool thing about a digital board, I have the PreSonus board, and I've also used the Behringer. Now, they both have good and bad. And again, I'm not doing a demonstration on that part, more so which one do you recommend based upon the level of church that you're in. So anyway, so the cool part about a digital board is you'll see that effects rack that I showed you on the last slide. Well, with a digital board, all those things and some, so you can have each channel, so you can have half your boards have at least a minimum of 6 auxiliaries up to 20, depending on how big the board is. Like a 32 channel board, I think has 10 auxiliaries. And then the cool part about it is each EQ, versus having a separate big outside EQ, inside EQ. So inside the system itself, each channel has its own key EQ, just like an auxiliary, as well as the mains will have its own auxiliary. Plus you can have compression, limiter, reverb, delay, any kind of effects on each channel, where on a digital board you pretty much would have to have each channel has to have its own separate one, depending on the type of effects rack that type of effects that you get. So for ease of use, the analog board is the ease of use. The challenge with a digital board is the learning curve, or learning how to work it, because it's like working a computer. A digital board is just exactly what it is. It's a digital board that's similar to a computer, where you got to go through some layers in order to get to certain things. Certain boards are a little easier than others, but for the most part, when you see this, when you work with a digital board, when I first heard about digital boards, I didn't want to do it. One, because I was kind of stubborn, because I was so used to my that that I was used to taking my effects rack But then as my business grew a little bit, and I realized that when I go to certain shows, they needed more effects, they needed more compression, they needed some limiting, especially when it comes to gospel events where everything is at a level 12. So it's extremely loud. So taking out certain frequencies that causes feedback and all the stuff that comes along that you need in doing the work, a digital board helped me do a lot more efficiently. But again, I became proficient in it. I'm learning all the time because I'm always watching videos. Because I use the board and have the board with me, that I can always use it and have practice with it and so forth. So I have the luxury of being able to love, and this is what I do for a part of my living, is I do pro sound. So between the two, if you don't have, in conclusion, what we're talking about today, in conclusion, if you do not have a professional or someone that wants to take this serious, I would not go into getting an analog board, because what happens is, one of the cool things about a digital board that I didn't say is that there's something called presets. So say, for instance, you have several services with several different singers or several bands, or you have an event where you have multiple people singing, multiple groups singing. Well, the cool part about a digital board is that you can preset, if you say, for instance, you have the time to do it, where you're able to do a sound check, where the everybody's there and you do a sound check. You could do save the settings, put it into the computer, which is on board, which is in the digital mixer, and save it. So when when those people come up, that band comes up, that choir comes up, I just click the button, and with the manual faders, with the moving faders, with the newer boards, they'll automatically move like the Behringer has it, and some of the others have it, and the PreSonus new board has it. The 32 channel board has it, where whatever settings you set it, the board, let me go back. Let me show you. Let me go back. Let me do it that way. Yeah, let me go back. If you look at down there, you'll see those little sliders. Where those sliders on digital boards, some of the more expensive ones, and now these less expensive ones, like Behringer and PreSonus, they have moving faders. So say, for instance, you do the settings for the sound check or the service for the different bands, and so all you have to do is go into the configuration, click in the settings, click restore, or whatever the name was that you named it, and guess what? It goes right there to that setting. So that's a cool part, where with a analog board, it doesn't do that. But for the most part, again, the reason I'm doing this video, and I'm going to say it over and over again, if you are not going to hire someone that is a professional and then pay them what they're worth, because one of the things the Bible says, a servant is worthy of his hire, he's going to be adding to your ministry, because you're going to have less problems with feedback and other challenges by getting a professional in there. Just like in a lot of churches are paying for musicians, look at that audio person is the same as a musician, if not more so, because that audio person can make or break your service based upon them knowing or not knowing what they're doing, pushing the right or wrong buttons at the right or wrong time. So in conclusion of my little video for today, please make sure whichever one you decide to do, get trained on either one, on both of them, because there's both learning curve on both of them. There are options and wonderful features for both. But if you're not going to have if you're going to have a volunteer, make sure someone that's maybe in school to be an audio engineer, that's a perfect person, so they can get their practicum and practice and learn about their craft, and so that way you have somebody that's learning and passionate about it, that wants to go in. Just make sure they're passionate about it, and if they're a volunteer staff, make sure they're passionate about it, and this is what they want to do to help the church, and they're willing to sacrifice to learn their craft, because that's the key to the success in this end of the business. So this is my tip for today. I just wanted to do this as the first of many that we're getting ready to do. My name is Brian Cochran, and this is Church Sounds. God bless you. Bye-bye.